All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. It's my privilege to be here today with you. I am introducing today's webinar, and they're going to kick it off to some other speakers, and we'll, of course, get to our main message today. So, I just want to introduce myself as Chris Boomsma, CEO here at the Council for Agricultural Science and Technology. On behalf of CAST, I want to say it's a real privilege to partner today with the Minor Use Foundation as we talk about understanding the most urgent crop protection challenges for specialty crop farmers. Very brief introduction to CAST. We are a nonprofit organization founded back in 1972, so over 50 years old. We provide credible, unbiased, science-based information about food, plants, animals, and the like to policymakers, the media, the private sector, and the public. We are based in Iowa, near Iowa State University. We are a membership-based organization, both at the organization and individual level. And I'll talk a little bit about that later today when we close out today's webinar. As I said, we focus on animal, food, and plants, and we are nonpartisan. Here's our mission and vision, and I just want to read the mission to you now. We convene and coordinate networks of experts, and you're going to hear from some experts today, to assemble, interpret, and communicate credible, unbiased, science-based information. And that is our focus, and we stick to that mission very seriously because we think it's a very important one. Most of what we do is done by volunteers. We have a small staff, but a lot of volunteers, from board members to writers, reviewers, all sorts of different folks volunteering for us. And we are very grateful for them. Many of them come from academia, but many also come from the nonprofit, government, and private sector spaces. We do release a lot of papers. We have an award called the Board Law Cast Communication Award. We host an annual meeting. And you can see some of our products and services there. Feel free to go to our website to check those out. If you ever want to get involved with CAST and you feel like being part of these publications, do reach out to me. I'd appreciate hearing from you. You can also reach out to other folks at CAST. Follow us on social media. You can reach out that way as well. We'd love to have you be part of our publications and overall education products that we put out here at CAST. We have a variety of products, not just like a webinar today. We also have video series, live webinars of other types similar to this one, a podcast. We have a learning center with all our papers. We have a variety of reports that we put out with SOAR, Supporters of Ag Research. Again, I ask you to go to our website, follow us on social media, and you'll see when these products are launched. And all of our products, by the way, are free of charge. There is no cost barrier to looking at these papers or being part of these webinars. Going forth in the new year, we're going to focus on a variety of things. Our audience, that is you, our image, our interaction, collaboration with folks like you. We're going to build out student programs, host events, and the like. If you want to be part of this journey, again, reach out, let me know. There are a variety of ways you can get involved with CAST. I mentioned that, from the board to being part of our newsletter, social media, student programs, and the like. So again, castscience.org, take a look at that and reach out to me. And now I'm going to hand it over to Dirk Drost, who is going to come on behalf of Minor Use Foundation, although he does collaborate and work with very heavily the Council for Ag Science and Technology. Dirk, the floor is yours, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, Chris, and good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Minor Use Foundation, I want to extend a warm welcome to each of you, and a special thank you to CAST, the Council for Agricultural Science and Technology, for partnering with us on this webinar. Your collaboration, CAST, helps us bring together scientists, regulators, growers, and industry to tackle challenges that no single organization alone can solve. As Chris mentioned, I have the pleasure of serving on the board of trustees for CAST, the board of directors for CAST, as the treasurer, and I'm also the chairman of the board for the Minor Use Foundation. I believe strongly in the mission of both organizations, and I'm thrilled that we're working together on this project and this communication. Let me start by sharing a bit of background about the Minor Use Foundation. The foundation was commissioned in 2018. We were formed as a result of a joint initiative between the United States Department of Agriculture, Foreign Ag Service, and the Standards and Trades Development Facility, and facilitated by IR4, our partner organization in specialty crop minor uses. The original project set out to remove international trade barriers for specialty crops by expanding global access to safe, effective crop protection tools. Today, the Minor Use Foundation is an independent, nonprofit organization continuing that mission on even a broader scale. We generate data packages for the establishment of Codex MRLs. We're strengthening regulatory pathways and technical skills around the world to improve the cultivation of minor crops and the control of pests that bother those crops. And as today at the foundation, we periodically go through a priority setting process where we solicit project ideas and work to understand the most pressing needs of growers around the world. This process is fundamental to our own internal strategy and thinking. Our resources, time, funding, expertise are limited. Despite the fact there are many challenges and needs. So every few years, we undertake a process that you're going to hear about today and the outcomes that you're going to hear about today to develop a clear, transparent framework for setting priorities as we invest the resources that have been entrusted to us to have their greatest impact for growers. Today, Anna Gore, our executive director, is going to walk us through the process we've recently completed and the findings that will shape our strategic direction over the next few years. With that in mind, I'm pleased to welcome Anna Gore, our executive director. Thank you.
Thank you, Dirk, and thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. And yep, I'll just wait for the slides to come up and then I'll begin the presentation. All right. So I will start by giving an overview of the Minor Use Foundation, and thank you, Dirk, for introducing it and sharing some of the information, and I'll just build a bit on what you shared. And then I'll go into our global priority setting process, how we structured it and what we've done, and how we are considering our work plan and next steps going forward. So first of all, just a bit of more detailed background on the Minor Use Foundation. Our vision is a world where fruits, vegetables, nuts, and spices are plentiful and affordable for everyone. And particularly what we do, as Dirk described, is try to connect growers of minor crops with crop protection solutions. As some of you may be aware, crop protection companies don't often have an economic incentive to register crop protection solutions for lots of minor crops. But minor crops are very important to global agriculture. They're important for nutrition and food security. They play a really important role in agricultural trade, and they suffer from the same pests and disease pressures as other commodities. So we help to get those crop protection tools registered to increase the cultivation of those of minor crops, of those crops. And we recently revised our strategic plan, which you can now find on our website. So maybe Carlos, if you want to put up the QR code here, folks can scan the QR code if you like to go check out our website. But I wanted to highlight the four key goals that were identified through our strategic planning process. The first is amplifying international attention and investment in specialty crops. So highlighting the importance of specialty crops and minor crops and specialty crops we use sort of interchangeably here. Highlighting the importance of minor crops in global agriculture and global trade. And not enough folks are really focused on the specific challenges that these commodities face. And so we want to bring more attention to that globally. Number two is promote a regenerative approach to agriculture through increased biodiversity. And here, when we talk about biodiversity, we're specifically talking about increased cultivation of specialty crops, which increases agricultural biodiversity and helps farmers, if they can cultivate more specialty crops and incorporate them into their farm, promote a more regenerative approach to agriculture. Number three is catalyzing public-private partnerships to facilitate the trade of specialty crops. And here we're talking about the specific role that the foundation plays within this broader ecosystem, where a lot of times there might be a communication, a disconnect in communication between stakeholders that's causing a problem for growers. For example, maybe a grower is having a problem with a specific pest or disease, but the crop protection companies that, sell these products and manufacture them, they don't know that this grower is facing that challenge, especially if it's in a minor crop. And the same might be true of the government. Maybe the government has an interest in supporting its growers, but it doesn't exactly know what the biggest needs are. So what we would do is identify the needs, and that happens through this priority setting process that I'll describe, and then connect stakeholders in the right way so we can address the problem. Maybe we work with the government, we work in collaboration with the private sector and the crop protection companies to make their technology available and help to get it registered. So we work in this sort of connecting role to catalyze public-private partnership, ultimately for the good of growers. And then our final goal is to facilitate smallholder uptake of safe crop protection technologies. And this would really be kind of the last step in this process. Once we do all this work to identify the needs and get products registered that are needed, we want to then make sure that growers are aware that these tools are available to them and that they're taking them up. So then we're hoping in the future to do more work directly with growers to make them aware of what technologies are available and ensure that they're being taken up around the world. So that's a little bit about who we are. And moving on, I wanted to highlight the importance of specialty crops and minor crops and why we focus specifically on them. So by volume, fruits and vegetables make up 10% of global agricultural production. But by value, it's 4 times that, nearly 40%. So clearly, these crops are very important for global trade, for global agricultural production in countries that rely heavily on global agricultural production for their economy. They're also very important for their economy. So we see that these are very high value crops. And as I mentioned, because they're a small part of production by volume, they're not going to be driving sales for crop protection tools. But they still, as you can see, really represent a substantial part of global agricultural value and therefore need access to tools. And that's the work that we do and will be discussed later on throughout the session. And then I wanted to just further highlight a little bit of some of the specific challenges that growers face. There's many new requirements that growers are facing in international trade. There's third-party standards, there's organic standards, there's increasing complexity in the broader sanitary and phytosanitary space. And so growers are looking at all kinds of requirements that they're trying to meet when they're exporting their commodities. It's really a space that's really increasing in complexity. And pesticides and residue levels are a big part of those requirements that growers are trying to be compliant with. And if you look to the graph on the left of the slide, you can see here, this is a graph showing border rejections in the European Union because of pesticide MRL residue related issues. And you can see that the light green is showing fruits and vegetables. And the dark green is showing all commodities. So you can see that fruits and vegetables over the past 3 years have represented more than half of all the border rejections. And that's primarily because there aren't enough standards and registrations, and they're not well harmonized for pesticides internationally. So that's the type of work that we do. We try to get these tools registered and we try to harmonize them between countries so that countries can trade freely with each other. So in order to decide which projects we're going to take on, we undertake a priority setting process. We do this every few years to understand which are the biggest pest and disease issues that minor crop growers are facing around the world. And so we initiated this process earlier this year. In the beginning of 2025, we launched a global effort where we had a call for nominations, and I'll talk through a little bit what that was. And then after we received all of the needs where people were submitting nominations to us, we then took a strategic and data-driven approach to disaggregate the data, to analyze the data and understand it. And then we went through a long consultative process where we brought together multiple stakeholder groups to try to make meaning of the needs we had and look at where we could build the best work plan to address them. And now we'll be moving into the implementation phase where we will be trying to address as many of those needs as possible through projects that we'll take on. So in a little bit more detail here, From January 7th to February 7th, we had a nomination window open where we launched that with an inception workshop on January 7th, where we asked all stakeholders to submit to us crop pest needs. So anybody from a grower group to a researcher to a government official could submit to us a need. For example, a fungus on a banana or a fly in fruit. And we collated and analyzed then all of the needs that came in. So we did a deep dive on filling in missing information, making sure that the nominations we received were made sense and were valid. Sometimes we went back to the submitter and asked for more information, and then we sent that information to the crop protection industry to ask for their feedback. Where did they see solutions that their company could support for those specific needs? And we gave the crop protection industry about 8 weeks to review all the needs we had received. And then we moved to the process, the stage of the process where we are now, which is then establishing projects based on what the needs are and what solutions are available. So we've been going through that process of creating a work plan based on this broader priority setting process that we went through. And then we're going to be conducting regional validation meetings later this year. Next week, we're going to be doing one in Brazil with Latin America. And in October, we'll be doing one in India with our Asian partners. And then we'll be doing one at the end of the year in Africa. And I can share more details about those later in the presentation. But that will be the final step to validate the work plan with each of the 3 regions where we're partnering. So the process that we went through is a little bit different this time around than what we had done in previous times. So if you had joined us for previous priority setting processes, you'll see some of these projects that I'm going to describe here are a bit different. In the past, we focused exclusively on Codex MRLs, recognizing that Codex is a very powerful international standard setting body that has a big impact on trade. We wanted to still focus on Codex, but we also see a challenge with Codex, which is that those projects are very high cost and they take many years to complete. So maybe it takes 2 or 2.5 years to generate data for a Codex MRL. It's a fairly time-intensive project. Maybe there's 4 or 5 countries involved, and we're doing 6 to 8 trials across those countries, and then we're submitting the data, and it's then taking a couple more years to establish the Codex MRL. So we wanted to be able to also work in smaller, quicker ways, getting local registrations or promoting regional harmonization or doing, specific trainings or other projects that would have outcomes. So we allowed folks to nominate needs that were outside of Codex as well. New solutions, which just refers to I'm not aware that there's a solution registered anywhere, but I would like to get a solution to this problem. Also, periodic reviews, which refers to the Codex JMPR schedule. They periodically, JMPR will review existing MRLs, and if there's no new data to support those existing MRLs, they will be removed. So for folks that are worried about upcoming periodic reviews and chemicals that may be MRLs that may be removed in Codex. This was an opportunity for us to understand that and perhaps generate data to preserve those MRLs. And then technology gaps, which is when you might be aware that there's a solution that exists. For example, maybe I live in the US and I'm aware that there's a solution registered for my specific issue in Canada, but it's not registered in the US. So I might specifically suggest that the Canadian use be registered in my country. So that's what the technology gaps refers to. Existing registrations that could be registered in a new country. And then import tolerances or IMRLs, import MRLs. So maybe you have a specific market access request. So we accepted those as well. And finally, special projects, which is a category where we were happy to receive, like I mentioned, specific needs for training, specific projects that you think we should take on that maybe fall outside of these categories. So now I'm going to just show a breakdown of the needs we received. So if you break it down by region, we received the most nominations in Asia, followed by Africa and North America. North America also here includes Central America. So a lot of the nominations that you see in North America are coming from primarily Costa Rica, but other countries in Central America as well. We received, then following Asia, Africa, and North America is Sub-Saharan Africa, and then Europe and Oceania. And I should note here, we did receive, so these were organic nominations that countries or growers made to us in Europe. We did receive supplementally a large list of needs from the EU Minor Use Coordination Facility, but their list was extremely long. It was dwarfing our global process, and we wanted to have a well-rounded global process. So while we are taking into account those needs from the EU in our projects and our next steps, we did not include them here in this analysis, and we did a lot of the analysis excluding them because they were quite extensive. And we wanted to have a well-rounded global process. And then nomination by categories. So 40%, a little more than 43% of our nominations were for new solutions. So this is where growers just want access to a solution. They're not aware of one that exists already. The second most popular category was trade facilitative MRL. So this might be, I have a domestic registration, but I want a trade facilitative MRL. I want market access to other countries. Those would be either Codex MRL requests or import tolerance requests. So those were 26% of the requests we received, and followed by periodic review requests with 15%, almost 16%, and then local registration requests. And here, local registration refers to the technology gap request that I mentioned earlier, where growers are aware that something is registered in another country and they'd like to get it registered in their own country. And I should mention for the new solutions requests, we did also allow folks to choose whether they would like a solution that was conventional or biological. And we largely found that people were agnostic to whether a solution was conventional or biological. So we're pursuing projects that would be in both categories. Really, whatever solutions are available and practical, we're going to be looking to work in those solutions. So now I'm going to share a little bit of the results and next steps that we've taken on analyzing and looking at the inputs we received. So first, we grouped all of the nominations by crop grouping principle. So we looked at what crop groups are the most heavily requested, what is the breakdown by crop group, because a lot of times we can address a whole crop group with some representative commodities, so we wanted to understand that. We then grouped by pest and disease, so we looked at what are the most heavily requested pests and diseases, and then we did a cross-analysis of looking at the most heavily requested crop groups compared with the most heavily requested pests and diseases to really understand the shape of the needs. Then we categorized the nominations, and we developed sort of a tiered process following from the crop group and pest analysis, which I will share shortly. And then finally, we solidified the global priorities. So in terms of what we received, we saw that over 40% of the needs requested were for thrips. So that was our most heavily requested pest, followed by Lepidoptera, then fruit flies, anthracnose, and Phytophthora. So you can see kind of a mix here. This is a list that's kind of consistent with previous priority settings we've done. So this is not surprising results, but we did see a really strong expression of needs for solutions to address thrips, Lepidoptera, and fruit flies as the top three. And then if we look by crop group, we also received heavily weighted priorities towards fruiting vegetables and tropical fruit. And fruiting vegetable was driven largely by chili pepper and sweet pepper. And tropical fruit was a more well-rounded mix of various tropical fruits, 5 or 6 different commodities that all fall within the same group. But you see a really strong preference or need demonstrated for those two crop groups. So coming out of this, what are we going to be taking as actions. Well, we already have established a tropical fruit liaison group. We're going to continue to work through that group. We have a new set of solutions available, and we're going to be looking for the most strategic mix of projects to address needs for tropical fruits. We're going to validate those needs with the Tropical Fruit Liaison Group. So we're going to be really kind of taking a step back. We're working with the industry now to identify projects to address those needs, and then we're going to come up with a mix of projects and send them to the Tropical Fruit Liaison folks. These are about a dozen either researchers or growers that work exclusively in tropical fruits all around the world. And they're going to look at our suggested work plan and give us some feedback to validate it. As I mentioned, it will also be validated through the 3 regional priority workshops that we do. But then we're also going to take on, in what areas can we be thought leaders or contribute thoughtfully to science and research in this area by developing policy papers, by sharing information and articles, by collating scientific evidence and making it more available to growers. So we're going to be looking at ways even beyond specific data generation projects where we can help inform growers about best practices to address the needs that were expressed. We're also forming a fruiting vegetable liaison group. And so the tropical fruit one was already in existence. We're just going to be leveraging it specifically for the validation of our work plan. With fruiting vegetables, we're going to be forming a new group. So it will be about the same, 10 to 12 growers and researchers around the world that would like to contribute to the foundation and share their expertise and their knowledge. And they will be vetting our work plan and also working to support, as I mentioned, some kind of scientific initiatives or development of policy papers that can help inform how best to address these needs. But we didn't want to only focus on fruiting vegetables and tropical fruit. It felt like, as the foundation, we should really try to address the diversity of minor crop needs that exist. And focusing on exclusively 2 crop groups, although they were very heavily requested, was not going to be a robust enough response and work plan for us. So we tried to take, of the top pests, a diverse set of crop groups that were nominated. And we also tried to focus on the ones that were most heavily requested. So in Tier 1, we're looking at priorities that were requested 5 or more times. And in Tier 2, we're looking at requests that were made 3 or more times. And so you can see on the left-hand column a list of pests and diseases. And then in the Tier 1 column in the middle, you can see the crop groups that we're going to be working in to address needs. And also in the right-hand column, those same crop groups for Tier 2. And so the emphasis is that with data generation, with those big, larger codex projects that I mentioned earlier, where we're going to be working for several years and generating a data package, that will still largely be dominating our work plan. And we're going to be focused primarily on the fruiting vegetable and tropical fruits for bigger data generation projects. But for smaller projects where maybe there's existing data that could be leveraged for a local registration or even for a codex MRL, or maybe a small amount of data needs to be generated to complete a package and make a submission to codex, for those types of I would say like lower cost, shorter timeline projects, we're going to be looking to do as many as we can to address a diverse set of needs. And these are the crop groups and pests we're going to be working in. So this is going to involve for us a deep dive into where data exists and where it doesn't. It's going to involve deep partnership as well with the crop protection companies to identify where they may have data that they would be willing to share with us for local submissions. So we're going to be, this is kind of different again than previous priority setting processes where we've emerged with a clear set of crop chemical combinations. It's a very kind of focused, tight set of projects. And this is a little bit more broader. It's a little bit more diffuse, but it also leaves a lot of room for us to have a lot more impact by maybe something was further down the list, a spices nomination, for example, but it can be easily addressed. So it gives us the flexibility to work a little bit more broadly and a little bit more flexibly. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing over the next few months is working to really identify where data exists, where countries have resources that can support um, local registration or codex submission, where crop protection companies are willing to support as well, and then moving forward to address as many of those needs as possible. So I've already sort of outlined this at a high level, but I'll drill down into it a bit more. So kind of reviewing where we came from and where we're going, we started by getting over 5,000 needs that were submitted to us in that 30-day window that I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the year. We contextualized each project. We looked at what was the need that was really driving it. Would it require data generation or not? And then we worked in a partnership mechanism with the industry where we sent all of the needs to industry disaggregated by type and asked for their feedback. And now, identifying the solutions, we're also going to be ranking the projects to evaluate the potential trade impact, the potential environmental impact, the potential economic impact, and prioritizing projects within those tier 1 and tier 2 um, uh, 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 groups that we established. And then we're going to be taking on as many of those projects as we can and putting our resources, we have very limited resources, as Dirk said. Our budget as an organization is quite small, but we're going to be taking the limited resources that we have to maximize the impact for growers. So whether that's a combination of small projects and big projects, and what exactly that mix looks like is going to come down to really where we can best meet the needs of the most number of growers. And then just to walk through exactly what the process would look like for Codex, MRL, and periodic review nominations, we are looking at the JMPR schedule. We're looking again at where data exists and where we can add commodities to the JMPR schedule to get quick wins of Codex MRLs. So if data already exists and something's already on the JMPR schedule, we can ideally add it to the schedule and get a Codex MRL for that crop chemical combination. And yeah, we'll be doing work with the crop protection industry to determine how many of those projects are suitable and how many we can go ahead with. We'll be generating data when necessary. So we might look at the JMPR schedule and see that there's a data gap and we could fill it. And we'll be working over the next few years to do that and get it submitted. And then there will be times when we look at the JMPR schedule and we notice that something's not on there. And we'll be working then again with the crop protection companies to get it added onto the schedule and generate the data and make the submission to establish the Codex MRL. And then for some of these smaller projects that I mentioned where we're looking at individual markets, we'll be working with crop protection industry to identify support, the suitability of submissions. And here we would be looking at both conventional and biological solutions. And we've had conversations with industry around both types of solutions. We would generate data if necessary, and we would make the submission to get the product into the hands of farmers where it's most needed. And then I wanted to mention that, the priority setting process is a way for us to kind of understand what our focus is going to be and what our work plan is going to look like. But we're still going to be continuing with our capacity building. We still have a major focus on capacity building as part of what we do. So we are going to be doing when we are generating data, we are going to be doing trainings, GLP trainings in both field and lab. We have a center of excellence in Colombia where we're still going to be doing annual trainings and working with countries throughout the region to improve their technical skills, to generate data, to analyze pesticide residues. So we are going to continue with a robust training program that we have set for next year. We're also going to be doing a lot of policy and advocacy. We're working on a guidance document for minor uses to help countries establish, both countries and at a regional level, establish minor use programs or supportive mechanisms that can help regulators better support their growers in their country. So that guidance document will be used next year in a lot of capacity building and outreach work that we do, and will be shared through regional economic communities and through a lot of the countries that we work with. And we're also going to be doing a lot of data generation for the establishment of Codex MRLs. We're going to be working as well to help countries adopt the Codex classification code, which allows them to set MRLs in a crop grouping structure so that minor crops can be more easily addressed. The needs of minor crops can be more easily addressed. And we're going to be looking at more submissions to Codex by extrapolation, which is a great and efficient way to get a lot of Codex MRLs set for minor uses without the need to generate new data. In terms of next steps, as I mentioned, we're going to have regional validation meetings later this year, with Latin America taking place next week, Africa at the end of the year, and Asia in October of this year. And yeah, we invite you to participate in those meetings, to reach out if you have comments or questions, or you'd like to participate in any way. Yeah, and then we invite you to reach out. All of this information is laid out in detail on our website. So you can actually, maybe we can put that up here. On our website, we have a dedicated page for 2025 priority setting process where we have a lot more detail about what we've done so far, the needs we received, et cetera. So you can check that all out on our website. And then finally, I wanted to highlight, we have some impact videos that we've put together highlighting the work that we've done with growers over time. So please also, I think there's a separate QR code for that. Please also feel free to check that out. You can see since the foundation was started, as Dirk mentioned, in 2018, some of the work that we've done with growers and how it's impacted them. That's it. Thank you so much, and happy to address any questions.
So, hello everyone. I just want to give all our cast members some news. So if you're a cast member, please check your emails. You're going to receive a message during this webinar with a different link. And so with that link, you can join our studio if you want to ask Anna a question on video. So feel free to join us here live. And but also please send your comments, your questions through the chat. So we'll start the Q&A session right now.
Well, hi, good morning. And Anna, we have 3 questions for you. Are you going to share?
Thank you. I'm just taking a look at the question. Okay, so this person is saying, I was curious to know more about whether growers have raised concerns regarding evolving pests and diseases associated with changing climate. If so, is there consensus on strategies to deal with them? Well, when we solicited the needs, we didn't specifically ask, whether this was like a new need, but we are anecdotally hearing a lot of growers saying things like that pest pressures are changing very quickly. They're very, very volatile year over year. Things that used to be quite stable aren't stable anymore. So we are seeing a lot of changes that growers are facing with pest and disease pressures, but we're hearing that kind of more anecdotally through our contacts. And that would be the kind of thing that when I was speaking about the liaison groups, we might choose to take up, a specific challenge that's a rather new challenge, and talk about maybe the impacts of climate change, or connect it back to climate change, but also be really focused as well on what the solutions are and what the future looks like for growers. But absolutely, we're hearing a lot of that. There's a lot of increased volatility. I don't know, Verónica, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think your answer is clear. Just we have different comments about missing MRLs, maybe market or trade issues, but not exactly in this other area. We have about maybe 4 questions. I'm going to go to the second one from Cristiano Matos.
Okay. addressing China MRLs, given that as a significant importer of fruits and vegetables? Thank you once again. Thank you so much, Cristiano, for the question. We don't have any specific partnership with China, although China is the secretariat for CCPR, the Codex Committee on Pesticide Residues. So we have a lot of informal collaboration and communication with the Chinese government in preparation for the CCPR meeting. But we don't do any specific work with China. China has been very closed, I guess you could say, and challenging as a trading partner to work with. They often will set many MRLs with no warning, and so they're a bit of an unpredictable trading partner, especially when it comes to MRLs. So we don't have a particular partnership with them, but it would be a good idea, as you're right, that they are a big importer, and maybe there's opportunity for us to grow it with our informal partnership with them in CCPR. It's a good point. Thank you.
Maybe, Anna, I can add
Yeah.
something different that we did in this process, and is that we don't ask just for priorities in Codex MRL. We have a new category, and we ask for necessities for import MRLs. Then we receive some nominations or necessities for import MRLs in EU regions, Asia, and I don't know, Latin America, and USA too. And I think this is something different to have relationship with the question. Okay, maybe we can go to the other question.
Okay. What do you think we should do to get T's or others at the bottom of the list prioritized? Yes, I'm concerned that those crops don't ever get some support. That's a great comment, and that was a big tension in the priority setting process for us. Was, as you saw, we had overwhelming kind of demand for work in tropical fruit and fruiting vegetables, but we didn't want to leave out, as a minor use foundation, our mission and our purpose is to try to support minor crops. So we didn't want to only focus on 2 crop groups. We wanted to have a more diverse approach. And that's why we created those 2 tiers that have a broader list of crop groups. So we really hope that, and that list of crop groups in tier 1 and tier 2 addresses almost all of the crop groups that we receive nominations for. So it's quite diverse, and we hope that it will produce a well-rounded set of work for us. So we definitely agree that we don't want to leave anybody out or anybody behind. We want to address all the needs, but at the same time, we have very limited resources. So I think the best thing to do for some of these more minor crops is to work in projects where you can extrapolate data or you can leverage existing data. So we hope to work more in that direction with some of the more minor crops.
And maybe we can invite to Alma to present comments like this in our validation process in next week during Brazil, because she can share with the other countries the necessity, and I think we are going to validate the priorities. Then we can try to see if this is an important issues, and we can discuss with other countries on the region. Thank you, Alma, for the question. I think we have another more. Yeah, it's from Davis.
Okay. For Lepidoptera and thrips, legume veg was a crop listed. Will this include dry edible grain legumes or only vegetables? We are including grain legumes, like pulses and things like that. So those would fall within the scope. Yeah, and it's a really good question. Thank you.
I see another nice question I'm going to show.
Okay. How much emphasis is given to use of inorganic chemicals versus biologicals or integrated pest management as solutions for pests and diseases in edible crops? And thank you. Yeah. So we, like I mentioned, we are very much agnostic to the type of solution, and we're looking for what the what is available, what the industry will support, what the growers need, and we're focused on that. So in some cases, and the majority of our work is in conventional pesticides, but in some cases we would be working in biologicals as they become available, and as growers demand them. So and in some cases we're looking at a combination of conventional chemistry and biological chemistry, and that could lead to an IPM approach. So I would say we're taking the solutions that we see that are available, that are high quality solutions, and we're working with those. And we're hoping that that would be a combination of both conventional and biologicals as we see big market shifts in the crop protection industry more towards availability of biologicals, and would like to harness that fully for minor uses as well, so that that's not just happening in the major crops. But we're certainly focused on trying to get the best solution and the most appropriate solution.
We have another from Elrita.
Oh, hi, Elrita. Yes, great to hear from you. Okay. Would Minor Use Foundation become involved in decision-making regarding removing of critical chemicals actives for use on minor crops, such as fludeoxonil in the EU? So a lot of the needs that we got were specifically, especially from Africa, which makes sense, Elrita, from your vantage point, were about market access that is a challenge now in the wake of a lot of removals that are taking place in the EU. I think the majority, a significant majority of the requests we got in Africa were driven by that. Were driven by looking for new solutions because of a lack of market access in the EU. So, for those of you that aren't as deeply enmeshed in this world, the EU has been removing a lot of registered substances, conventional pesticides, and that is causing a lot of trade issues and market access issues, especially for African countries that are heavily dependent on the EU for export markets. So we would absolutely be looking at alternative chemistries that could be registered in Africa that could replace some of the chemistries that are being removed in the EU. It's a major trade issue. And so, we are definitely thinking a lot about how we can support minor crop growers in addressing that.
The next.
Okay. As registrants, how can we provide more support to your group in terms of funding or technical supports? How can we learn growers' needs better through your group so we can provide potential solutions? Thank you. That's a great question. I appreciate the interest. So we work, as I've mentioned throughout this presentation, the crop protection industry featured heavily. We work really closely with the crop protection industry. So we really rely on our strong partners in the crop protection industry. So we would, be happy to speak more. I'm not sure, Jan Bing, I don't think that we've met, so I don't know exactly which company you're with, but we have partnerships with a lot of the crop protection companies. There are many ways in which the crop protection industry is really fundamental to the success and the functioning of the foundation. There's lots of ways of providing in-kind support, like shipping of test substance, or helping in protocol development, or helping in analytical method development, and method validation in the labs in the countries we're working in. So there's lots of ways where the partnership is really very valuable. And obviously, the crop protection companies that are able to financially support the foundation, it's very helpful for us as well. And as we kind of talk more specifically about individual projects that we might work on together, that also takes a lot of time and effort and partnership from the crop protection industry. So in all of those ways, we really value the partnership. And if you would like to follow up, we'd be happy to talk with you more about that and your specific company. Thank you.
And maybe we can go with the last one. From John.
Okay. What criteria will determine whether a proposed solution qualifies for implementation funding? Yeah, so we have way more problems than we have solutions. So if we have a good solution, we are going to be looking for a way to work with it. Although, as I mentioned, we have a small budget. So, there's many different criteria that would come in. What type of project is it? Does the proposed solution, what type of need is it addressing? And then really, if we had a viable project and we had support for it, we would try to go ahead with as many of those as we can. So I think, depending on the solution, if it was addressing a demonstrated need, then we would try to move forward with it. I think more the challenge has been identifying solutions to the challenges that we see, and how can we be efficient in doing that. So hopefully that answers the question.
Maybe I can add that it's a hard process. We review a lot of issues and we have a merit analysis maybe. In the case of conventional solutions, we can review the regulatory part, not just in codex or in the import country. We review the regulatory part in each country. We review is a solution that has MRL or data in other countries. For biological solutions, we need to be sure that it's efficacy. And I mean, it's a hard process, but we have a merit analysis to apply.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. That's right.
And I think we have a couple more questions, but maybe we can answer by email. And thank you so much for all the people who sent their questions.
Okay, should we look at this one or no? Okay, that's one for email.
Yeah, the last one.
Okay, last one. Okay. In recent years, especially with International Year of Millets, oh yes, which are termed as nutri-cereals, climate resilient, or more important for food and nutrition as human food in Asia and Africa, are millets part of your portfolio? We've never worked in millets, at least not that I'm aware of. And I don't know, Verónica, you can let me know if we have, but I think we would consider working in a project like that, but we haven't in the past. And as you saw through our priority setting process, you've seen kind of where our focus is going to be.
Yes, that's correct. Okay. I think we can close this session and can go to the other.
Okay, so we'll follow up on any questions that we didn't address via email then. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. Thank you, Veronica, as well. I appreciate both of you coming on today. Great presentation. Obviously generated loads of questions. And so, folks, just as was just stated, we can follow up by email, follow up with Anna and Veronica on the questions that didn't get answered because we are slowly running out of time here. Just a note for everyone. Obviously, there were a lot of QR codes coming up on your screen. The recording from today's presentation will be made available. You will get an email with a link to the recording. I strongly suggest you go to that recording, take a look at those QR codes. Anna even mentioned how you can get in touch with her, how you can follow the Minor Use Foundation. Please do all those things. Those resources are readily available to you very shortly when you get that recording. So very good. Again, thank you to the Minor Use Foundation for partnering with CAST today. I just want to follow up my earlier comments by saying there's just a few other things about CAST. If you're interested in our Meet the Experts series, here's one with Matt Bauer from the Western Integrated Pest Management Center. You can join that, watch them live on all of CAST channels. Again, these type of resources are free to you at CAST. So please join and learn from experts in the integrated pest management space. If you want to become a CAST member today and check out some of the benefits, it's not really much of a cost barrier, but check that out. There's a QR code, another one for you. You can also check out our website, and you can, of course, reach out to us at cast-science.org. So with that, everyone, I want to thank you all for coming today to this webinar. Again, thank you, Dirk, Anna, Veronica. I appreciate your participation. There's my QR code for my LinkedIn account. Please do reach out. Thanks again, everyone, for joining today. You have a wonderful day, and I hope your growing season goes well. Take care. Bye-bye.